Hi there, Sagittarius. Welcome to your June 2023 General Tarot reading. It's Rena here. I was just thinking, oh, wow, I'm going to do my sign. So I'm really excited about this. And I really do get excited. You can imagine reading the tarot and then doing it for your own sign. What that means. Oh, that's funny. But I'll tell you, bring it on. In terms of what it represents. Ooh. I'm gonna cut the cards just so we get like a nice fresh card. These cards are matte, so they're hard to kind of pick up sometimes. Okay, I'm gonna pick an additional card because that's like, let me. Okay. Yeah, the 10 of Wands and 9 of Wands. I don't want to end on that just because it's not something that feels like a proper ending, I would call it. It kind of opens up a new can of worms. Okay. The heart of the matter is the Death card. In this particular deck, sorry about the train. It's rush hour, so I guess that's why they're just one after the other. The Death card is followed by the infinity symbol, which is the sideways 8, and then we have rebirth. And this deck has this as opposed to the Rider-Waite deck, which, I like because people tend to think of the Death card as being, oh my God, somebody that I love is going to die, or I'm going to die, or something like that. And no, it isn't about that. If it were, it wouldn't be a bad thing in terms of, life itself. I don't want to just act like, oh, wow, death is something to fear. But it isn't, that's not what it means. It means rebirth. It means that there is something ending and there is something being born. From that ending comes a new beginning. And in June, on June 3rd, there is a full moon in Sagittarius. So that can sometimes be something coming to a head or a close. You're putting the final touches on something. It can come to fruition, and that doesn't mean that it's going to end, whatever that area of life is. But in some cases, it can be. Somebody graduates college, somebody retires. There's always this feeling of apprehension because we don't know what's going to take the place of whatever has been our day-to-day life. If somebody retires, everybody says, oh, that's so great, they get to retire and then they don't have to work anymore. But when you're in that situation where somebody might be working a job and being in a company for 10 or 20 years, maybe there are things that they don't like about it, but that is quite a disruption in their life. And they may be like, oh, is this it? Am I just like, I'm useless? I don't have any, there's nothing I can be productive about. So there can be apprehensions about, the unknown. So rebirth, it can just be like anything that you're doing to expand your life for growth purposes. You could be letting go of something, and by the same token, you could be starting something new. In the past position, we have the Queen of Pentacles. For some people, this may be a woman. Well, I'm saying woman because queens can be mothers. Let's say you've been a stay-at-home mother, and now your children are going into grade school, and they're going to be in school all day, and you're like, I want or I need to go back into the workplace. That can be a death of sorts because you had that identity, you had that lifestyle, and now it's changing. So that's just one example. Queen of Pentacles can be anything where somebody maybe and even though it's in the past position, this could be simply something that you've been doing. So the person who is retiring, the person who is maybe they got laid off and they want to start their own business, and so they're at home because it's like being in this very nurturing and earthy phase, you know, and there may be, so it could be a very restful time for you where you're just enjoying the fruits of your labor and not being so concerned about outer accomplishment, because the Queen of Pentacles is like double feminine energy, which is interior rather than exterior. So it can be different things to different people. And the higher message is the Seven of Cups. So perhaps there are choices, you have a lot of opportunities, but you don't know which route to take. And if you have recently been in some kind of great upheaval, then it makes sense that you would maybe just hang back and not feel like you're compelled to make some kind of snap decision, because the Seven of Cups says that you may be operating with this sense of a diluted quality. I think that card is connected to Neptune, but there might be like this wishful thinking component where you want something to be what you should be doing, and yet it's not. Oh, another thing that this card could be is for those Sages who are getting divorced. So the death could be your relationship, your marriage, and maybe you have been kind of in that domesticated bliss, but now you have to take on a new role and you don't know which direction to go in. Well, it's perfectly understandable why somebody would feel that way. But understand that any ending is also a beginning. That's really the takeaway from all of this, whatever it is that I'm saying. What crosses you is the Moon card. So like the Seven of Cups, this card, well, I assume that both of these cards are connected to Pisces. The Seven of Cups, they say Neptune. The Moon card is connected to Pisces, which is ruled by Neptune. And it's crossed. So it's like the intuition is being blocked for some reason. The person may realize that something has ended, but they don't know how to move on from it. It may be something where you just feel this sense of like the emotions overtaking you, because the moon can be, obviously the moon is connected to your emotions. And when it's challenged, the emotions are challenged. And this is very commonplace when, for instance, you get divorced and you didn't ask for the divorce. Or when I say divorced, I mean any kind of relationship that ends, a partnership, and you didn't ask for it. You can tell yourself what that means. You can paint this story that is not very pleasant about who you are based on what another person did in that relationship. And yet you could be totally blocking your intuition, totally blocking what this is really all about, and all the blessings that are attached to it. What's coming in is the Ten of Pentacles. This is a card of inheritance. So yes, I mean, with the Death card, there might be someone, I wouldn't say that, oh, somebody is going to die in June. This may be something that already has been a thing, and that you've been dealing with some death, and maybe the emotions accompanying it are very complicated, as they often are when somebody dies that you had a difficult relationship with. Sometimes it's not so clean cut where you can just grieve and it's a pure grief. You may be angry at that person, for instance. And what do you do with that anger? Well, I had that experience myself. And what happened with me is that I just allowed myself to feel it. I didn't think, oh, you shouldn't be thinking that, you shouldn't be feeling that, because I really believed that that person was kind of assisting me, maybe from the other side, as I, laid out my grievances. And I didn't feel like, I remember looking back on it, I didn't feel really guilty. I was just kind of like, oh, well, because I was kind of maybe being a little bit hard asked about the whole thing. But in a way, it was better than when you just completely fall apart and you're just grieving and you don't feel like you're ever going to stop grieving. That's when it's really disempowering. But in my case, the anger actually allowed me to feel stronger in a way. But it wasn't anger like, oh, I hate this person. No, hell no. It was just like this sense of like what could have been if that person had really known themselves and really understood me better. So maybe some of you are kind of grappling with a complicated death. Now, like I said, the Ten of Pentacles can be an inheritance. Queen of Pentacles. Okay, well, Queen of Pentacles could be, especially if like a woman who's like a mother figure who might be an earth sign. So Taurus, Capricorn, or Virgo. Now, this might be your stepmother, perhaps. And this person may, it might be one of those situations where it's like two families. You are, the child from one family, and then the stepmother, and about the inheritance. And the Seven of Cups, I mean, that could speak to maybe you're being given this offer, and it's like this bright, shiny object, but it might be a trap, in other words. The Moon card as well, where you may be, in your grief or your confusion, you may be like tempted to take an offer, but it might not be, there might be deception attached to it. The outcome is the Nine of Wands. This is a card of boundaries, but also a card of being wary of, I always see this as being wary of a narcissist, that they're going to come around again. So an example is if, if somebody, for instance, has died, or even like an ex, if you're dealing with like the Ten of Pentacles can be that family money, but maybe even within like a marriage. And if that person has left, you have to watch out for them popping back in. I used this example the other day of, the Fatal Attraction, not talking about literal, but like, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Fatal Attraction, and I would definitely switch off of that if you don't want to get the, the ending being spoiled. But like when you think she's being drowned and then she springs back up. That's that's kind of like what it can be. They use that same technique in Sleeping with the Enemy. And I loved both of those movies because I love that kind of psychological, those like, whack jobs that are obsessive, that scorpionic thing. I love that kind of psychological study into like what makes people like that. And they come back, even if they asked for the divorce, they broke off the relationship, they ghosted you, they come back. So you have to be on guard so that you don't get swept up in that reunion, is what I'm saying. This was another card I picked and I decided not to end here either. Ten of Wands. This can be, in one of my books, it's called The Burdens of Success. So it's someone who is working overtime. With the death card, this may simply be some kind of in-between job. Maybe this is not something that you plan to do forever. Like if you got laid off and you are doing something temporarily, but it's really burning you out quick because it's very hard work. But also in relationship, if you're like trying to make something happen in a relationship and you're not seeing that it has to be both people participating, then you could very easily self-perpetuate this codependency trap. So I picked an additional card, and this one really makes sense to me. The Fool card, a major arcana card that is connected to a whole new cycle for you, a whole new path. And, the fact that you had a full moon in your own sign speaks to this, because this can be that, whenever you have it in your own sign, then that's the first house, and that talks about another cycle of endings that are part of life. It doesn't have to be like this major ending, but this is definitely a major beginning. And so where do you see, so that's really great that I started with the Death card and I ended with the Fool card, which is the very first card of the major arcana, numbered 0. And you have to trust the universe because you have no guidebook. There's no way to know what's going to happen. I personally, as a Sag, I love that kind of thing but there's always a part when you are making changes where it can be a little bit, you might feel a little bit fearful because you're like, okay, but is my life going to just come crashing down because of this or not? And being able to reassure yourself is really important. Not everybody can. Not everybody has that ability. But anyway, that's something some people have to cultivate, even some Sages. So that's what I have for you, Sag. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.